We've celebrated a lot of anniversaries in the music world this year, haven't we? In January, we celebrated the 10th anniversary of High School Musical, which, as we all know, was the most realistic depiction of high school since Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. In March, we hit the 30th anniversary of the sci-fi adventure movie Highlander, which featured an amazing soundtrack by Queen. I would have reviewed that, but I was still working on my review of Daft Punk's Electromo, which itself came out in May of this year. Yeah, my upload schedule sucks. This month, however, we've reached the 30th anniversary of the classic children's movie Labyrinth. Now before I get to what I think of the movie, let me just say that,
Dear the Happy Spaceman, I regret to inform you that the Nostalgia Critic, a much funnier reviewer than you, already posted a review of Labyrinth back in February, and reviewing it would break your rule of not reviewing movies that he's already reviewed.
oh no, I'm breaking the one rule I set for myself when I first started. Look, first of all, the Nostalgia Critic himself says that reviewer dibs don't exist. I'm not the only person who's reviewed each of these movies. Secondly, I've been planning this review for a few months now. I'm not even sure how many people will be reviewing it this month, seeing how so many were quick to review it when David Bowie died in January. I would have reviewed it back then, but, well, again, my upload schedule really sucks. Anyway, this is Labyrinth.
No one can blame you for walking away.
Labyrinth was a 1986 movie directed by Muppets creator Jim Henson, with a starring debut of actress Jennifer Connelly, but is mostly remembered for its badass singing villain played by David Bowie. I'm gonna break character for a second and talk about how so far this year has really sucked for rock music. I didn't think that anything could possibly top last December's too soon passing of Scott Weiland and Lemmy Kilmister, but just in the past few months, we've lost Prince, Glenn Frey, Keith Emerson, Merle Haggard, Maurice White, and it was all started by the death of David Bowie. David Bowie left a huge impact in the world, and I'm just going to say that without him, I probably never would have gotten into music myself. I'm not going to eulogize, because I already did that back in January on my blog, but let's just continue. With a budget of $25 million, this film was probably Jim Henson's most ambitious project, being a spiritual successor to his cult classic film The Dark Crystal. You didn't need to cut to the poster just then. The VHS case is right behind me. This is one of the few times when the movies behind me are actually getting acknowledged. Unlike The Dark Crystal, however, Labyrinth was a critical and box office flop, which is why nobody remembers this movie. And by nobody, I mean everybody. This movie was distributed by TriStar? I don't know, I can't see that logo anymore without fearing that One Direction's gonna show up and do nothing. Right away, the movie brags about being brought to us by Lucasfilm, because this was back when having George Lucas's name attached to your movie was actually a good thing. Just like how the VHS case says that it's from the master of myth, George Lucas. Wow, this was before the Star Wars prequels. Hell, it was also a few months before Howard the Duck. The opening credits show us what was considered good CGI back then, and between Frank Oz and George Lucas, this is turning into a Star Wars reunion. Yeah, I know that the songs are performed by David Bowie. There's one playing right now.
Don't tell me truth hurts, little girl, 'cause it hurts like hell.
And in case you forgot it's directed by Jim Henson, the editor is actually named Grover. The screenplay is written by Terry Jones of Monty Python fame, which explains why Jareth is ultimately crushed by a cow. The movie opens with its star Jennifer Connelly as Sarah, practicing her lines for the climax.
For my will is as strong as yours, and my kingdom is as great.
Personally, I'm impressed with her Game of Thrones fanfiction, but she needs to get topless to give the full effect. Wait, that's right, she was 15 when this movie was filmed. Whatever, when I was 15, I found her hot as hell.
Oh, it's not fair!
Her acting, on the other hand, needed some work. She wasn't quite at Oscar-winning quality yet, but as she got older and hotter, she simultaneously became a better actress.
We were worried about you.
I can't do anything right, can I?
She treats me like a wicked stepmother in a fairy story no matter what I say.
To be fair, you do kinda look like Lady Tremaine. Sarah is upset because she has to take care of her annoying baby half-brother, Toby, who will apparently grow up to become Waldo.
I hate you! I hate you!
I hate you!
I hate you!
This was Jennifer Connelly's first movie, and if you haven't seen this movie before, you're probably thinking that there's no way she was the studio's choice for the role of Sarah. Well, I did a little research and found out that some other choices for the role included Jane Krakowski and Helena Bonham Carter. Both actresses were obviously too old by that point to play the role of a 15-year-old, though that didn't stop Grease from casting 30-year-old Livy Newton-John as a teenager. Also, if this script was written with Helena Bonham Carter in mind, that definitely explains why Jennifer Connelly talks in a British accent for some parts of it.
You really wanted to talk to me, didn't you?
Sarah finally gets so fed up with Toby that she wishes that the mythical king of the goblins would take him away. As you do.
Goblin King! Goblin King! Wherever you may be, take this child of mine far away from me!
Oh, that's not it. Excellent, that rubbish. It doesn't even start with I wish.
Well, no, but I'm pretty sure she made her instructions clear enough. Eventually, she does wish it, but she didn't know that part of the deal was that the power would go out. Now how is she supposed to play The Legend of Zelda? As it turns out, the Goblin King is very real. And he's a bit of a badass. Is it time for the big entrance yet?
You're the Goblin King. I want my brother back, please, if it's all the same.
I love how she just naturally assumes that he's the Goblin King, because what other reason would he have for dressing like that and sounding like this?
What's said is said.
Oh, that voice. I think I need a new change of panties.
By the way, for the King of the Goblins, he doesn't really look like a goblin, does he? I mean, we've seen the other goblins. Jareth just looks like a human with some makeup. Well, I did some more research and found out that the original plan was to have him be a Muppet like the rest of the goblins, but they decided to change that when they wanted to get a pop star as a part and have him sing. Had Bowie not been up for the role, their second choice would have been Sting from The Police. But they presumably went with Bowie because at this point in his career, Bowie's filmography included such hits as Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence and The Man Who Fell to Earth, while Sting's career consisted mostly of him mugging for 2 hours in Dune. The point is, they made the right choice going with Bowie. Sarah's only hope to get her brother back is to walk through this green screen effect for the Labyrinth to get to Jareth's castle.
Doesn't look that hard. Well, come on, feet.
I guess that's one of the less crazy things she said. Once she gets there, Sarah comes across a dwarf named Hoggle, who spends his time gassing fairies and urinating in public.
Kids movie!
Where is it?
Where is what?
The door.
What door?
It's hopeless asking you anything.
Not if you ask the right questions.
How do I get into the labyrinth?
Ah, you get in there.
Oh, you mean that door? Yeah, why didn't that first question work again? By the way, a running gag in this movie is people accidentally calling Hoggle by the wrong name.
Thanks for nothing, Hogwarts.
Oh, it's Hoggle.
That's a different fantasy movie centered on a teenager. Sarah runs in a straight line for about 2 minutes, but the soundtrack makes it sound like a training montage is happening. Finally, she runs into a worm that helps her through the labyrinth.
I have to solve this labyrinth. But there aren't any turns or any openings or anything. It just goes on and on and...
Well, you ain't looking right. It's full of openings. It's just you ain't seeing them. There's one just across there. It's right in front of you.
Hey!
Ah, so the real killer here is Sarah's apparent lack of depth perception.
Don't go that way. Never go that way.
Oh, thanks.
If she'd have kept on going down that way, she'd have gone straight to that castle.
Meanwhile, we cut to Jareth's castle, which for some reason has chickens running about, and we get to hear the catchiest song in the movie. Alright, sing along with me, guys. You all know the lyrics.
You remind me of the babe.
What babe?
Babe with the power.
What power?
Power of voodoo.
Voodoo?
You do.
Do what?
Remind me of the babe.
And of course, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, or more specifically, the elephant in David Bowie's tights. Dance magic dance, more like pants magic pants! Now I'll refrain from making jokes about his co-star, but I will bring up some more related facts that I found out. Apparently the original idea of Jareth was to give him sort of an androgynous look, have him be a bit girlish in his general appearance and mannerisms. But then they got David Bowie to play the part, and we went from this to this. Now granted, in the 70s, David Bowie showed that he could pull off the androgynous look with his Ziggy Stardust character. But this was 1986, when it was very clear to everyone that David Bowie was in fact a man. And speaking of it being clear to everyone that he was a man, whose bright idea was it to put him in tights? It's so pronounced that not only can we see the outline, we can also see which way it hangs! Fun fact, Teenage girls in the 80s were said to have lost their virginity by watching this scene alone. The scene finishes with him tossing baby Toby into the air. Funny, when I tried doing that with a baby once, its mom just screamed at me. Sarah then comes across these guys who claim that one of them always lies and the other always tells the truth.
He could be telling the truth.
But then you wouldn't be. So if you told me that he said yes, I know the answer is no.
But I could be telling the truth.
But then he would be lying. So if you told me that he said yes, I know the answer would still be no.
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
I think I'm getting smarter. This is a piece of cake.
You see, the mistake you made was saying the phrase, piece of cake, which is this movie's equivalent to... Whenever someone says it, something immediately goes wrong. Sarah falls into a chasm with some literal helping hands, and whoa! Did you see that? Play that scene again. Do it again, but zoom in a little bit. And again. Yes, I really am doing this. Again. Did you see it? That hand just felt up her crotch! There have already been enough jokes made about how she's groped a lot during this scene, but we're getting into serious lawsuit territory with this one. She runs into Hoggle again, who helps her get out of the cave.
Don't go on. Go back while you still can. This is not the way.
While this is a funny gag and all, it's worth pointing out that I had a hard time getting it at first when I was a kid. Why? Because over half of it was cropped out in the VHS release. Why even include the joke in the movie if you can't see it due to it not being in widescreen? Though for some reason the end credits were in widescreen, which resulted in them being completely unreadable. Priorities.
What have we here? Nothing. Nothing? Nothing? Nothing, tra-la-la?
Okay, I seriously don't get that line.
Nothing, tra-la-la?
Is he trying to direct our attention to his own tra-la-la? No need to do that, Bowie. There's an extreme close-up on it in this very same scene.
Hello, Hedgewort.
Hogwarts.
Hoggle?
Wesselton! Duke of Wesselton. How are you enjoying my labyrinth?
Sarah, my face is up here.
But your package is down there.
It's a piece of cake.
Stop saying that!
Well, let's see how you deal with this little slice.
Boy, there sure is a lot of ball fondling going on in this movie, isn't there? Not that that's surprising in the least, considering what movie this is.
No, no, the cleaner!
What?
After they escape from that, they have a nasty encounter with a scene that completely derails the pacing and adds nothing to the plot. With all the phallic imagery already in this movie, are these statues really necessary? Sarah then saves a big furry guy named Ludo from being tortured by goblins, and they encounter some talking door knockers. Because of course they can talk. I bet everything in this movie talks. I bet even David Bowie's package talks.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal.
Where do these doors lead?
What? Search me? We're just the knockers?
What knockers?
Thank you, Doctor.
Sarah then loses Ludo and calls for Hoggle to help, but Jareth finds him first and gives him a peach to give to Sarah. Also, he pokes Hoggle with his rod.
You don't think a young girl could ever like a repulsive little scab like you?
What, you thought I was talking about a different rod? My view isn't only dick jokes, you know.
You'll give her that, Hoggle, or I'll tip you straight into the bog of eternal stench before you can blink. And Hoggle, if she ever kisses you, I'll turn you into a prince. Prince of the land of stench.
Now there's a line that's incredibly stupid, and would probably bomb if any other actor said it. David Bowie, everyone! But as Sarah looks for Ludo, she comes across this unpleasantness.
Don't got no problem. No problems. Ain't got no suit. No suitcase.
Just this. All of this. Look, I know this movie is ambitious. It tries a lot of different things, and for the most part it works. But come on! I'm not one to complain about bad blue screen effects, but this is a professional movie with a $25 million budget. Show some dignity, man! Look, we saw through his mouth! Did you see that? We saw through his mouth! That's unfortunate. Not only that, but this scene has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. You could probably remove it and nothing would be changed, except Hoggle would have nothing to save Sarah from. Even the song is the least memorable one in the movie. Go figure, the one song that doesn't have David Bowie singing is the worst one in the movie. Anyway, Hoggle does eventually save her, but she makes the mistake of kissing him, which sends them both to the giant fart joke known as the Bog of Eternal Stench.
I never smelled anything like it. It's like...
They meet up with Ludo, but they can't get across the bridge because of this rocking reference to Don Quixote, a fox named Sir Didymus.
We've got to get out of this stench.
Smell bad.
Stench? Of what speakest thou?
The smell!
I smell nothing.
Dude, you're a fox. You have a heightened sense of smell. Stop bluffing! Whatever. If I wanted foxes in kids' movies, I would stick with Nick Wilde from Zootopia, thank you very much, because he would never lie to me. Sir Didymus and Ludo engage in a fight that involves a lot of groin shots, but all for nothing, as it turns out that it's actually quite easy to get past.
No one shall pass this way without my permission.
May we have your permission?
Yes?
That was easy.
Why do I have one of these again? But when the bridge breaks under Sarah, Ludo shows that he has the power to summon rocks, and she successfully makes it across. Sir Didymus mounts his steed Ambrosius, who for some reason looks like Sarah's dog from the beginning of the movie, and if you thought this movie didn't have enough fart jokes... Now they've assembled their entire Wizard of Oz team, complete with a team dog, they go on their merry way. But not before Dorothy here gets knocked out by the poppies. Not before Hoggle slips her a roofied peach. As Jareth fondles his balls again, Sarah gets sent into a weird dream that I can only describe as a PG version of Eyes Wide Shut. But uh-oh, do I hear fretless bass? You know what that means!
There's such a sad love deep in your eyes, it kind of ailed you.
Fun fact, this is actually Jennifer Connelly's sex fantasy.
That's the sex fantasy you've been having since you were 12. Exactly the same.
Her dream brings even more phallic imagery as David Bowie stalks her. Again, keep in mind that she was 15 when this movie was filmed. If you really wanted to see her breasts, he could have just waited until she showed them in Inventing the Abbots. And then again, maybe Goblin Land has sex laws similar to France or Japan. Sarah eventually breaks free from her dream, and why did he think that was going to work anyway? She winds up in what looks like the junkyard at the bottom of the mountain where I live, as she finds out... No, of course it wasn't just a dream. We still have about 30 minutes left in the movie. We go through an extended scene obviously representing Sarah growing up and rejecting childish materialism as she breaks free from her false home and makes it to the castle, where they have to fight this giant robot that's apparently being controlled by the DMV workers from Zootopia. Luckily, Hoggle finally comes to the rescue and completes his character arc of not being the cowardly lion.
I forgive you, Hoggle.
You do?
I guess getting to dance with David Bowie was worth getting poisoned. Gotta love this cat running by in the background, by the way. I like to believe that this wasn't intentional, that a random cat just stumbled on set. Fun fact, when the clock shows that Sarah only has 13 minutes left, that's in real time. The climax of the movie lasts 13 minutes. Jareth finally does what he should have done way earlier and sends out the guards, but not before Sarah passes this statue that appears to be pissing.
I think we're gonna make it.
Oh, piece of cake.
Okay, you facepalmed earlier when Sarah said the same phrase. You obviously know the damage it does. Why did you say it here? By the way, movie, yes, there is more than enough phallic imagery here. We don't need a cock in every shot, too. Oh, and in case you were wondering if the cannonballs were alive...
I hit something, yes?
Though this scene drags on for a while, it does show off some truly impressive Muppetry at work. And some terrifying Muppetry as well. But eventually, Ludo does summon the rocks, which leads to a few funny gags.
Candyman! Candyman, hold your ground!
Smokey, this is not Nam, this is bowling. There are rules.
Unfortunately, I already used the Indiana Jones theme, but is it just me, or does George Lucas really like giant boulders rolling after people? They eventually make it to the castle, but Sarah has to face Jareth on her own.
But why?
Because that's the way it's done.
But when she makes it inside, she finds that it's an MC Escher-like room that's impossible to navigate, and it's been far too long since Bowie last serenaded us.
Everything I've done for you. I move the stars for no one.
By the way, ever notice how human-centric this world is? The leader of the goblins is a human, and the only person who can take him down is also a human. That's kinda weird. Sarah chases Toby for a while, but is eventually confronted by Bowie, who is now wearing a completely different outfit. I guess the last one didn't show off his balls enough? By the way, remember in the beginning when Sarah was memorizing those lines from the book? Yeah, apparently that was foreshadowing.
For my will is as strong as yours. And my feet.
Just fear me, love me, do as I say, and I will be your slave.
Wait, how does that work? Unless it's some sort of weird sexual kink, which, if I were she, I'd take it. But does she take it?
You have no power over me.
Oh blimey, I forgot about the "you have no power over me" clause. Curses, but just you wait, I'll be back.
She has returned to her home and finds the baby happily asleep in bed, though I'm sure her parents will question why he has an inexplicable fear of British people for the rest of his life. She returns to her room, where she has a doll of Jareth for some reason, and, well...
Should you need us, for any reason at all.
I need you. All of you.
Why didn't you say so?
Wait, when I said I need all of you, I didn't really mean all of you. I just meant my friends, not the villains, and definitely not those guys. Just you, Ludo, Didymus, Ambrosius, and maybe Jareth. What, I get lonely.
So that was Labyrinth, and what else can I say? It's a classic. Who could possibly hate it? Well, apparently at the time a lot of people hated it, with Roger Ebert's 2-star review saying that it was obviously made with infinite care and pains, but it never really comes alive. Then again, this review also confuses the characters Toby and Hoggle. I'm sure Gene Siskel at least gave it a positive review, right? Actually, Siskel's review was even worse, calling it awful, with a plot that was simultaneously pathetic and much too complicated? Funny, I thought those terms usually canceled each other out. But he also theorizes that someone is advising Jim Henson that you have to be more violent to grab the movie audience's attention. Wait, violent? You think this movie is violent? Where the hell were you when Gremlins came out 2 years earlier? Even David Bowie's performance got some criticism, with the St. Petersburg Times saying that Bowie forgoes acting, preferring to prance around in his lair while staring solemnly into the camera. Oh, so you mean acting? The movie wasn't a box office success either, only grossing $12.7 million on a $25 million budget, though being released around the same time as Ferris Bueller's Day Off didn't help matters. Honestly though, Labyrinth isn't bad. Labyrinth is awesome. I wasn't kidding when I said that I own a VHS of this movie. Yeah, I used to watch this endlessly when I was a kid. It was my first real exposure to David Bowie. I probably heard some of his songs before then, but this is the first time when I actually connected the voice with the person. And when I first saw him on screen, I said to myself, I want to be like that guy when I grow up. It was really David Bowie who influenced me to become a rock musician in the first place. Anyway, I don't have a joke to finish off this review, so I'll just let the credits send us off.
Put on your red shoes and dance the blues. Dance to the song they're playing on the radio. While color lights up your face.
It's a piece of cake.